A vast sea treasure.
X marks the spot. We found it.
Let's check it out. I don't have me glasses. Wait, there weren't no glasses in my area. Look at this. Where's me brick? Where? Here? Oh. I can't read a map and a script at the same time. Oh. Yes, so I guess these are Treasure Island auction offerings on the back. A delicious dinner with church friends. Highest bidder now. Oh wait, the fundraiser's not today. Here you go.
Game night. Game night.
Handcrafted scarves.
A rockin' concert by Jamie.
It sounds like all this treasure is from UCH's fall auction. It is. X marks the spot right here at 11 West Maple Street in Hinsdale. This land must be Treasure Island. On Saturday, November 16th, our treasure chests will be overflowing with bountiful booty. Parties, dinners, game nights, concerts, and vacations, and goods like handmade weavings and jewelry will be yours for the taking. I mean bidding. We won't make you walk the plank if you stop by the table in the lower deck, the Alice Warren room, to see how you can become one of our mateys and join us on Treasure Island. Let's go, mateys! Aye, aye.
Good morning. Welcome to this place of peace, justice, and hope. In this Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm no matter who you are, who you love, or where you are on your journey, you are welcome here. For those of you joining us online, we're so glad you're with us. If you are visiting with us today, we invite you to sign our visitor's book. Following service, please join us for coffee hour downstairs, and if you would like, feel free to take a green mug so that we can be sure to greet you. Also, members and friends, to help folks connect, remember to wear your name tags, I remembered mine today, with your pronoun stickers. If you need a new name tag, you can request that in the living room. I am Paula Sijit Dvorak. My pronouns are she and her. I am a middle-aged, medium height, pretty close, white woman with shoulder length brown hair, and I'm wearing a goldish yellow shirt for the fall. I'm pleased to be with you today as the worship associate. Our music today is provided by the incomparable Jamie Passman. Yay. And today's technology service is provided by Alex Dvorak. Childcare for children under the age of 5 is available in our playroom, located in the lower level of the RE building across the alley. Youngsters are welcome to join the playgroup when the older children are sung out to RE, but please know that all ages may remain in the service. All voices are welcome here. If children or adults are feeling restless, we have a variety of activities and gadgets in our living room to help calm your mind, body, and soul. Please feel free to get up and help yourself. I ask everybody to put your phones in worship mode. You are always welcome to take pictures or share our community on social media. Just be mindful of the people around you. Church life. This is a reminder that next weekend we will host the UU Climate Revival. UCH will join congregations around the country in this exciting weekend event, which builds on decades of faithful and visionary UU climate and environmental leadership, and is designed to encourage collaboration amongst congregational teams. This event will take place at UCH on Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. and after the service for an hour of action. All are welcome, but we are asking that folks register. An email went out yesterday morning with a link to register. You can also reach out to Reverend Beth if you'd like a new one sent to you. And we also have paper registrations at the welcome table. Next Sunday is the 4th Sunday of the month, which means Beds Plus will be packing shelf-stable goods to deliver to folks who desperately need food security. In order to ensure that folks get what they need, there is a sign-up in News and Notes. Please sign up via the link in News and Notes, or ask Lou Crowley or Mary Getty for more information. Finally, you should have gotten an email regarding extending Reverend Beth's contract for the next church year. We'd like to invite our board president, David Mrazek, up to speak a few words on this and the future of our ministry. There's always a lot going on around the church, and you can read all about it in your email inbox every Friday, and there are printed copies available downstairs. If you'd like to receive News and Notes, stop by the welcome table in the living room at the back of the church.
Thanks, Paula. So this message went out, but you may not have all seen it, so I just wanted everybody to get the gist of it. So Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson is in her second year of her contract, and she began serving the church March 1st, 2023, and her contract is set to end July 1st of next year, 2025. She's a contract minister, and as such, we, the congregation and the minister, can begin the process, to pursue the process of calling her to be our settled minister. At the August Board of Trustees meeting, we discussed utilizing the call process, and it involves the creation of a committee that, along with deliberate, thoughtful, and intentional engagement with the congregation. Now, the process needs to be completed by December to give Reverend Beth time to plan next steps, depending on the outcome. Well, December is around the corner, and we met, and in light of this, agreed that we just need more time to ensure that the process is in keeping with our Unitarian Universalist values of a fair, democratic, and transparent process. So we agreed unanimously to extend her contract for one more year to give us that time. And it also enables us to create a committee on shared ministry, which is also in her contract. And also the option to extend is in her contract. But we also need to put together a committee on shared ministry whose task will be to evaluate and nurture the health of the ministries of the congregation. So this all takes some time, and we just need more time. So we're extending her contract. And if you have any questions, you can talk to me after the service, or you can email me at uch.board.president@gmail.com. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Please rise and body your spirit for our opening song, number 232, Break Not the Circle.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gene. My pronouns are he and him, and I am so honored to be able to be here with you today with Paula on the date of the autumnal equinox and celebrate the perfect balance of life within. The equinox is even more special this year because I get to spend it in this place, this beautiful church, with the people that I love. But first, we have to acknowledge that this church was built on lands that are the traditional territories of indigenous people, including the Kickapoo, Peoria, Kaskaskia, Potawatomi, and others. We acknowledge this not to be performative, but to remind ourselves of the great heritages that have been lost to the area and to learn and connect with those heritages. So as these words are repeated week after week, it's kind of easy for them to fall into the kind of background music of service. But I encourage you to use these acknowledgments as a motivation to learn about our area's native heritage, the harm done to native peoples, and engage in work to repair that harm. And now let's light the chalice with these words from the esteemed Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson. In days past and even now, when the light lessened and the dark deepened, our ancestors and those in our midst gathered together around bonfires or candles or cauldrons lit to celebrate the second harvest, to give thanks to their bounty and the continuing release of the light. This is the time of perfect balance between night and daylight and dark. We gather today, heirs of the desire for wisdom, for depth and meaning. We gather as the year spirals towards the lessening light. As we journey inward towards transformation, come, let us worship and journey together. And now let's join Pam Fodor for a time for the young and young at heart.
So long ago, before people really knew about sciencey stuff, they would make up stories to explain things. So this story I'm going to tell you today is a fictional story, a made-up story about why there's day and why there's night. And was it today or is it today or last night? Yesterday, today. It's going to be equally light and equally dark. So this story is called Mr. Fox and the 10 Sons. Once upon a time, there lived a wise old fox deep in the woods among the ancient oak trees. Mr. Fox had 10 sons, and they spent their days making trouble. Do you make trouble? No, yes. So his sons frolicked in the fields, playing tricks on all the other forest animals. Now, on one otherwise quiet afternoon, the 10 unruly fox brothers decided to play a game of hide and seek. So they disguised themselves as 10 fiery sons. S-U-N, sons. And they rose high above the earth and they shined down on everything on earth. Now guess what happened? What would happen if 10 suns were shining down on us? An angel. Oh, an angel could come, but we would be hot. Oh my gosh. With 10 suns in the sky, the forest grew very, very, very hot. And the leaves became dry and brittle, and acorns turned black and fell to the ground, and the soft forest floor was scorched and very hard. Now, Mr. Fox was terribly upset with his sons, S-O-N, by the way. "Come down here right this instant," he yelled. But the sons only laughed. Mr. Fox was furious. He ran swiftly through the forest until he found his friend the porcupine. Mr. Porcupine, may I please borrow 10 of your quills? Of course, said Mr. Porcupine, but whatever do you need them for? Shouldn't you be hiding in your den to escape this awful heat? Well, that's just the thing, said Mr. Fox. My sons have disguised themselves as 10 fiery suns, and they will not come down from the sky. But I have a plan. I wonder what the plan is. So Mr. Fox took the porcupine quills, and he ran as fast as he could through the oak trees, over the winding river, through the golden meadow, and to the top of Snowgood Mountain. Now, that's where he gathered a bendy branch and some vines, and he made a bow. Not a bow like that you wear in your hair, but a bow and arrow, right? So, he took the first quill, and he put it in his bow, and he aimed it up at the sky, and whoosh, he shot down the first sun, making it fall from the sky back to earth. And then he did it again, whoosh, and the second sun fell. And then the third sun, and the fourth sun, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh, and the eighth, and the ninth. And then he reached in his pocket for the last quill, but there weren't any left. He must have dropped one when he was running through the forest. Oh no, what am I gonna do? And he started to cry, and his tears fell to the ground. And the Queen Mother reached down from the heaven to console him. There, she said, you have saved the earth from 9 of the scorching suns. We'll make a deal with the last one. He can rise and shine each day, and we'll call that morning. And then we'll cut a deal where he rests behind the mountains, and we'll call that time night. So the sun, S-O-N/S-U-N, agreed to the plan to save himself from being shot down back to earth. But being the trickster that he is, the Queen Mother decided that she better keep a close watch on him. So she decided to build a palace on the moon, the nearest place between earth and heaven. And there she sits and waits to make sure that the sun keeps his end of the bargain. Mr. Fox and all the other forest animals cheered and clapped and danced when they realized that the scorching suns were no more. And each year at harvest time, they gather acorns and nuts and berries and all of the bounties of fall and deliver them to the Queen Mother as she sits on the moon as a gesture of gratitude and goodwill. So that's why we have angels and daytime and nighttime. All right, thanks for sharing. Can you gather those all up so nobody trips?
Our first reading is The Balance of the Wheel by Elizabeth Barrett. Nothing lasts forever. The universe we know must keep the balance of the wheel and master ebb and flow. Centripede's the builder of order, life, and light, while entropy tears down again with chaos, death, and night. Nothing lasts forever. The stars will fade away, but entropy is on the wheel, and so must yield someday. Time is like a stopwatch that hangs upon a chain, and when it stops, God winds the spring to start it up again. Nothing lasts forever. The wheel is fair but stern. However bright or bleak it seems, there comes another turn.
Thank you, Paula. I started my preparations for this sermon the same way I begin my preparations for all services. I grabbed a copy of my favorite book, A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson, and started skimming for readings. And my wife was sitting there and said, you know, you can do one service without a Bill Bryson reading. So I said, fine, I'll do one service without a Bill Bryson reading. So there's this quote in the beginning of my favorite book, A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. And it goes, space, let me repeat, is enormous. The average distance between stars out there is 20 million miles. Even at speeds approaching those of the light, they are fantastically challenging distances for any traveling individual. Of course, it is possible that alien beings travel billions of miles to amuse themselves by planting crop circles in Wiltshire or frightening the daylights out of some poor guy in a pickup truck on a lonely road in Arizona. They must have teenagers after all. But it does seem unlikely. So when we talk about the vastness of space, we're usually talking about interstellar travel, but the truth is the distance to our own sun is almost beyond comprehension. Orbits are elliptical, so we are not always at the same distance to the sun, but it's approximately 93 million miles away on average. And to put that in perspective, the radius of the Earth at the equator is 3,958 miles. The sun is 23,500 Earths away. The fastest object made by humans was actually sent to the sun, NASA's Parker Solar Probe, which reached speeds of 395,000 miles per hour. That is 500 times the speed of sound. Now, it didn't reach that speed until it actually got to the sun, but it goes without saying that it got there faster than anything else man can create, and it still took 3 months. And I should say that human beings are not even close to traveling at that speed. We might not ever get there. It's a lot easier to go fast. It's a lot easier to go fast when you don't have to worry about keeping someone alive. Now, saying the Parker Solar Probe reached the sun is a mission objective definition only. The probe, in fact, only traveled to a point about 4 million miles away. The moon, meanwhile, is less than 250,000 miles away, so that by that definition, we basically live on the moon. So congratulations, we did it. In fact, the title of this book is more correct than probably even the authors know. By the way, that's me holding the book. That's my brother, and the face he's making is while he's trying to comprehend the enormity of space. So I say all this because it is awesome to me that even at these great distances, our position on this small planet can determine how hot or cold that we feel. And I say awesome in the most literal way, like I am awestruck by that fact. I am awestruck by the power of the sun and how the tilt of our axis can impact the effect it has on us. Today, the Earth's axis is as parallel to the sun as it's ever going to get, so the only thing impacting the absorption and our reaction to the sun's light is the curvature of the Earth and the atmosphere. This means our day and night are equal, and we call that the equinox. That's technically not true for us, though, because it's true on the equator, but we don't live on the equator. Our days are perfectly equal when the Earth's axis is ever so slightly tilted towards or away from the sun, depending on if it's spring or fall. But a cool fact that I just learned is the equality of the day and night today is actually closer than it should be because the atmosphere bends the light's rays. And so after it falls behind the horizon, we actually temporarily get the effect that it's still there. I thought that was cool. And to be sure, these are like grade school lessons, right? I distinctly remember learning that the tilt of the earth causes the seasons in 2nd grade. I remember Mrs. Bringadello teaching me that. But that fact somehow becomes more and more impressive the older I get. Now, the impact our position on earth relative to the sun has on our daily lives is large, but that's on a human scale. On a solar scale, they're vanishingly small. Take, for example, the difference in temperature between day and night. The average temperature on Earth between day and night is 6 degrees Celsius. Compare that to Mars, where it's closer to 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, coincidentally enough, the difference between a block of ice and a pot of boiling water, neither of which we would care to live in. So when I hear these numbers, I think about how we are truly living on a knife's edge. We, being the enlightened, science-fearing UU faithful that we are well aware of how a small increase over average temperatures is causing havoc on our civilization. The increase in our planetary temperature is not a future threat. People are suffering and dying yesterday because of the impacts that we have had on our planet. We, fortunately or unfortunately, are currently isolated from those changes primarily because of our physical location on Earth. Our wealth will help us stall those changes for a little while, but the bill is coming and it will be massive. So how small of a change is required to completely alter the balance of life as we know it? Our modeling of climate change has been consistent, and it has provided testable predictions which have been validated through objective evidence. Like, that's what science is, right? But we can look back and see those impacts as well. A team of researchers led by, somewhat ironically, the University of Arizona, has determined that the average difference in global temperature during the last ice age was minus 6 degrees Celsius. That's smaller than the difference between night and day. As we embrace today's perfect balance, let us reflect that we exist not only because of the perfect balance of our Mother Earth. Let us reflect that we do exist only because of the perfect balance of our Mother Earth. Our Mother is resilient. Life, as the great philosopher, mathematician so eloquently put it, will find a way. This flower is proof of that. I'm not worried about humans extinguishing all life. There is plenty of life already on Earth that doesn't care at all how pleasant things are for us. And as we throw her out of balance, she will find equilibrium again, just as she has been thrown out of balance and found equilibrium countless times in her past. What we must worry about is her deciding that we're just not worth balancing the extra weight. And with that happy thought, let's sing. Please rise as you are willing and able to sing the second hymn, number 16, It's a Gift to Be Simple. Now is the time in our service where we balance our personal needs with the needs of the church. See what I did there? And we call that the offering. Please join me as we say our offering words together. Maybe. There we go. This church is made up of all of us. It is learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with the people around us, and with all the world. We will now gratefully receive your contribution and thank you in advance for your generosity.
We enter this space bringing with us joys, concerns, challenges, and blessings. If you have something either weighing or dancing on your heart this morning, you are invited to come up and drop a pebble in the water. If you wish, you can say a name, a word, a short phrase, or simply share your intention in silence. I just dropped a pebble in celebration of seeing Jody here. So nice to see you. Do you want to say something?
It is my joy to be back with my original UU family, and it's so wonderful to see you all. Happy to be here.
I have been up here probably 2 times before talking about saying goodbye to our dogs. I'm very proud to say that we have a beautiful black and white Sheltie. She is a delight, and she's the best new member of our family.
Our second reading is Loveliest of Trees by A.E. Houseman. Loveliest of trees, the cherry now, is hung with bloom along the bough, and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide. Now of my 80 years and 10, 20 will not come again, and take from 70 springs a score. It only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs are little room, about the woodlands I will go, to see the cherry hung with snow.
Consider the bigfin reef squid. This picture has absolutely nothing to do with anything I'm going to say. As the sermon goes on, you might think that I might find some clever or tortured, depending on how you think of me, way to bring it back to the squid, but just a fair warning, like it's not gonna happen. I just think that he's beautiful, and I love the picture, so I wanted to share it today. When I was 20, if I thought that I only had 50 more springs, I would have been a little bummed. Now I'm significantly older than 20 on a human scale, of course, and I recognize that I might not have 50 more springs, and I'm a little bummed. A. Houseman must have been wiser than I was at 20 because I historically have had conflicting thoughts about autumn. Autumn is my favorite time of year for a whole host of reasons. The weather is perfect, both in terms of temperature and precipitation. I get to wear hoodies to work again. The colors of the leaves on the trees are gorgeous, and when they fall, the crackling beneath my feet is pleasant and hypnotic. My birthday is in October, Halloween is in October, autumn has a lot going for it. But it also signals the end of the summer and our quick descent into the shorter, colder days of winter. Now, in fairness to myself, it's easier to wax poetic about putting aside your apprehension and enjoying life during the passing of the seasons, when the snow capping the cherry trees are blossoms and not, actual snow. But my shift in thinking started a few years ago, oddly enough, while watching the video to the classic rap anthem, Lazy Sunday by The Lonely Island. Andy Samberg and Chris Parnell are walking around New York City in their winter coats, and perhaps for the first time in my life, my thought was not, wow, it would be nice to live in a place where you don't need a coat, but I bet I would miss coats if it never got cold. I don't know why I thought this, or even if it's actually true, but I am glad it happened. Now, I'm not saying that winter has become my favorite season. I hate waking up in darkness. I absolutely dread it. I'm not a morning person to begin with, and I really don't appreciate the morning decide it's gonna just run off and be the night for a little while. By the way, one of my favorite lyrics of all time is "The night has come to behold the sun," and it turns out that's not even the lyric, but I just love it so much, so. But as we celebrate the balance of today, we must remind ourselves that the days of spring and summer are only possible because of the balance of the relative darkness of winter. Jackie James, a UU religious educator, says, "Welcome darkness. Don't be afraid of it or deny it. Darkness brings relief from the blinding sun, from scorching heat, from exhausting labor. Night signals permission to rest, to be with our loved ones, to conceive new life, to search our hearts, to remember our dreams. The dark of winter is a time of hibernation. Seeds grow in the dark, fertile earth." Besides which, I'm certainly not waking up at 5:30 to get out of bed to watch the sunrise, so I actually appreciate the sunrise much more in the winter. So coupling my newfound appreciation for winter with lessons gained from UCH's Buddhism Meditation Monday, shameless plug intended, thank you, it has become much easier for me to live in the moment of autumn and appreciate it for what it truly is, my favorite time of year. Now today marks the astronomical start to autumn, although the real-world implications of that are basically worthless. It is also the pagan holiday of Mabon, which aligns with the historical and ancient feasts and festivals around the second harvest. This is a time of gratitude for the work during the summer and the abundance that work, along with Gaia, our Mother Earth, have reaped upon us before we prepare for the winter. And a time of Thanksgiving makes sense because although it's the start of the astronomical fall, it is firmly within the grasp of the meteorological one. In fact, the US holiday of Thanksgiving was originally on October 3rd, not even 2 weeks from today. The actual term Mabon is recent and was incorporated as part of the Wheel of the Year, which Reverend Beth has discussed in her Soul's Journey sermon throughout this past year. The season was named after Mabon ap Madron, did I say that right? A mythical huntsman born from the original mother, who was taken prisoner. Some stories stay in the underworld, some say in the deepest dungeon of the castle of King Arthur, and freed during a hero's quest. As it relates to the feast day named after him, his imprisonment and release seems a little bit backwards, for his imprisonment is the summer and his release is the winter. The Wheel of the Year is a useful tool to keep us grounded in the balance and cycle of life, particularly as the effect of the transition from summer to winter has moved from an existential one to one primarily of convenience. Gone are the days where harvest festivals marked a temporary reprieve from the work of preparation for the cold months ahead. Today, typical winter preparations for me consist of making sure my tires are properly inflated and the snowblower starts. Even my actual harvest preparations are somewhat conciliatory. Harvesting my garden and preparing the bed is no longer a means to ensure my survival, and I'm not a very good gardener, so thank God for that. They really just make the early spring version of myself a little happier with the previous fall's gene, or vice versa, depending on fall gene's laziness. But the insular notions warded to us by the relative isolation from nature's cycles do not mean we are actually separated from them. We ignore them at our own risk. We ignore them at the risk of balance, at the risk of contentment, and even at the risk of our species' survival. So let me re-summarize the Wheel of the Year using Reverend Beth's words, because why duplicate that which I cannot approve upon? And I think we're beginning, if you want to follow along, at 10 o'clock. As we began the wheel at Samhain, we dared to dream the dark, to dance with our shadows, to enter the cave or cauldron of transformation. At the winter solstice, the spark of hope and light was born, and we turned ever so slightly towards the outward journey. Unable to rush it, we allowed the dark to nurture us, still even while knowing that light would be there. At the cross-quarter day of Imbolc, that restless seed quickened within as our creative depths and the journey took us ever so slightly outward. At the spring equinox, we named the miracle of rebirth and turned towards outer work. At Beltane, we celebrated the bursting forth and bearing fruit, growing in the fullness of time. At the summer solstice, we stood with no shadow in the height of full light, looking at where the journey had taken us thus far. At Lammas, we celebrated the first harvest, the very beginnings of letting go, of slowly turning inward once more, the scattering of seeds. And now, at the autumnal equinox, we acknowledge the decay of seasons as the soul turns once more inward. For it's at its core, this is what it's been all about. The soul's journey is about the stuff of our lives. This living in and throughout the process of nature, we are not separate from nature, and we are results of nature's inherent processes. Then our struggles with meaning and purpose, our endless search for insight, and the understanding cannot be limited in their significance or consequence to the human enterprise alone, but must be part of the emergence of the universe itself. Recognizing the balance, this is Jean back, by the way, of Mabon allows an introspection, to return our thoughts and habits back to the turning of the seasons, to return our existence back to nature and the Mother Gaia upon which we still depend. And to return ourselves to creation, we must first immerse ourselves in her creation. There are lots of ways to meditate in nature. We are lucky to live where we live because we are surrounded by places of natural beauty. We can birdwatch in Waterfall Glen, take a leisurely walk through both forest and prairie in McDowell Forest Preserve, work on habitat restoration in Bemis Woods, or simply sit outside and enjoy the world as it presents itself to us. This is something I constantly need to work on. I'm outside a lot, but a lot of times I am trapped by that most devious of technologies, headphones, and it prevents me from truly absorbing the world around me. The first time I went to Arizona, I was totally amazed at the wildlife. This is supposed to be a desert, right? Things being dead is kind of the definition. I thought, but I was surrounded by various lizards, toads, hummingbirds, all seemingly unafraid of a little human interaction. To be honest, I saw more animal life in the death of the Arizona desert than I see back home in the life of Illinois. And I wondered, do I not see this much life at home because I have more places to hide, or because I just stopped looking for it? We had Labor Day on our patio this year, and prior to our guests arriving, I made sure that the feeders were well stocked. Now, this was to look good in front of family and friends, and I think the birds might have been a little jealous. And as part of this, I filled up a little plastic dish that's ostensibly a bird bath with peanuts. And as the party went on, the tray kept getting emptier and emptier. I didn't even realize this until once, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little squirrel running from the dark side of the trunk, look over the rest of the party to make sure that his stealthiness was not compromised, grab 2 peanuts, and then make off in great haste. And by that point in time, the dish was pretty empty, so he must have been doing this the entire party, with human guests within touching distance completely oblivious to the entire enterprise. I sometimes have little moments with squirrels. Mostly they leave me alone and are quite fine to have the distance reciprocated. Sometimes they are perturbed when I side with the cardinals and sparrows and chase them from the feeders. Last summer, I watched diligently while one crafted a nest, very feng shui, with nascent tree branches. See if this video works. At first, I was annoyed that their efforts would deprive a future gene of the additional shade that those branches will now never be able to provide. However, after a while, I became impressed with his industrialness and his work ethic. I should say that I might have been watching him during my work hours. And while I was the one getting paid, he was certainly the one working harder. And I realized even squirrels have jobs, and I hope they have nice bosses. I'm sure prior to this, he was more aware of me than I was of him, because almost immediately after discovering him, he would occasionally stop what he was doing, pop his head up from behind the branches, and spend a moment or two just staring in my direction. I'm not exactly sure what he was thinking, but I'd like to believe it was something along the lines of, "Get back to work, slacker." My point is, at that moment, I was not an elevated being living separately from the squirrels. We were both sharing that time and space together, curious of each other's motivations and motions, our plights intertwined, even if for but a moment. I know there are a lot of people out there like me who have conflicting opinions about the fall and what it means for the passing of the seasons. But today, I ask you to take a breath. Spend some time outside, maybe not literally today. Spend some time outside soaking up the remaining warmth and letting nature come to you. Acknowledge your place in our web of existence and appreciate the wonder of the wheel of life. Also, oh my goodness, I was doing my final review of this last night, and I realized that today is the start of the Libra zodiac sign. And Libra is represented by the scales and balances, and I am a Libra, so that was inexcusable. But It was too late to rework anything, so something about the zodiac, I don't know. You can fill in the empty bits. In the meantime, please rise as you are willing and able for our closing hymn, number 226, People Look East.
I have to share my own quick squirrel story. I have a picture if you don't believe me. One time I was looking out the window and there's a squirrel right outside the window, like chattering away, trying to get my attention. And I'm looking at the squirrel and I'm taking a picture and I realize in the background, his brother or wife or whatever is stealing the birdseed. So the squirrel was distracting me from their cohort stealing the birdseed, which I thought was pretty genius. I think they're smarter than we think. Our chalice distinguishing words. May your Mabon be filled with gratitude, abundance, and inner harmony as you embrace the changing season and the magic it brings. Please join us as we share in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
One of my favorite stories is the story of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun and his wax wings fell off. And in a sense, that I think is all of us. We're all too close to the sun at this point, and I think we need to be careful. This song is interesting because it's very beautiful, but right at the end of it, it has this crazy, weird chord that strikes me as a word of warning. Look out at what we're doing. So here's a brief version of the song Icarus by Ralph.